Hey guys, Sean here with the VM Media Group. This video is going to just be a quick look at the apps that I have on my 2014 Google Nexus 6 made by Motorola. So first of all, just to reiterate, this is the Google Nexus 6 with a 5.96 inch 1440 by 2560 AMOLED display coming out to 493 pixels per inch, the Snapdragon 805 chipset from Qualcomm, which features the quad-core 2.7 GHz Crate 450 CPU and the Adreno 420 GPU, and 3 GB of RAM. And this particular phone is the 32 GB Midnight Blue variant of the Nexus 6. So we'll start here on the home screen. We can see, first of all, you're greeted with my minimum clock. This clock basically starts out, we have the general circle around the outside which shows battery. Currently we also have 86%, as you can see right there. You see the date right under that along with the hour and then the minute in the blue circle around the ring. So this is just a very minimalistic, good looking widget which matches the material design theme of the phone very nicely. Under that we have my Google Fit widget which shows how many steps I've taken, and then we have my volume control widget which allows me to adjust volume because quite honestly the Lollipop volume settings suck. But they are much improved on Android M, which I do have on my Nexus 9 and we'll go over in another video. On the home page you can see here we have my social folder. First of all, social folder features everything that I use in order from most used to least used. So first we have basic general apps like Facebook, of course, which everybody uses and it's generally pretty cool. The app isn't too bad either. Snapchat is one of my favorite social networks too. Just so you can see it. The Android version is not always the best. Of course, this is the beta which I am a part of. So if you're really that interested, there you go. Next in the social folder we have Instagram, which is probably my favorite social network just because it's simple, straight to the point, free of drama and such. Then we have Inbox, which is of course from Google, and in my opinion is the greatest email client that you can get. It organizes everything for you in a very easy to read fashion, and everything is always organized and ready to go. We also have the My Smoothie app for Smoothie King, which enables me to get free smoothies. It's not really a social app, but I use it enough and always am with friends when I use it, so it works out the best. In the social folder, then we have Time Hop, which of course is just generally shows you everything that I've done on my social networks in the past. Nothing too special. We then have Google Plus, which I use mostly for more professional things rather than just messing around on other social networks. Skype, which I use mainly for chatting because quite honestly I hate video chatting on phones. Then we have Twitter. Twitter's not even worth opening because nobody seems to like the actual Twitter app and they prefer other Twitter clients. I don't really like Twitter, it's just kind of there in case I have something to say for whatever reason. And then last and definitely still least, we have the phone, which of course is the stock Lollipop dialer. Nothing too special. Then we have my Google folder. The Google folder is one of just Google apps obviously. So we have Google Chrome, which is my web browser of choice because it syncs with all of my desktops, laptops, and other Android devices. Then we have the Google Play Store, which is pretty basic and self-explanatory. It's where all of my apps come from. Nothing too special here. Google Photos. We have Google Keep, which I use as a to-do list. We have Google Wallet, which I can use for NFC purposes. Google Wallet's great because it helps me manage my spending and also allows for tap-to-pay purchases, as I said, and I can also use my Google Wallet card in many places and send money easily to friends, and it also allows me to manage my transactions and everything else very simply, securely, and safely. We then have my Google Calendar, which is my calendar of choice. It basically just enables me to see everything that I have to do. Next to that we have Contacts, which is just the stock Google Contacts app, nothing special there. We then have my Utilities folder, which has things that I use often but are not super important, such as Android Wear, which I don't usually need to open the app because all the watches except the G-Watch R that I have sync with Wi-Fi with Cloud Sync, so it works pretty well without even having to open the app as long as Bluetooth is on. I do own the Smartwatch 3, LG G-Watch R, and Moto 360, in case you did not know that already. We have LifeLog, which is the Sony app and works well with the Android Wear devices. Basically takes a total look at my fitness in a more detailed way than Google Fit does, so I actually prefer this over Google Fit for most things. It's not quite as fast, not quite as attractive, but I can scroll through the day and see everything that I do. So we come to yesterday, it'll refresh to whatever I did yesterday, the day before, and this is mostly useful because I go to the gym almost every day, and it can really help me with just general tracking my fitness. We then have the Motorola 360 Connect app, which it's kind of the same type of thing as LifeLog, except much less in-depth, and therefore I don't really use it. Actually, I don't remember the last time I've opened it. We have My Glass, which is the Google Glass app, because I do have Google Glass Explorer Edition version 2. Then we have Settings, which is the stock Settings app, obviously, and a File Manager, which is obviously third-party, and just allows me to manually come in here and just go through all the stuff here. Now we're just going to go ahead and go left, and you see my Google Now, because as I use the Google Now launcher. Right now you see we have tomorrow's agenda, which shows my work schedule here, and just general stuff based on what I've been looking up. Weather, stories to read, and things like Shazam, and obviously Google Now changes all the time. It's very useful, and then I can quickly search Google easily right there, or I can say, okay Google, and of course come into it like this, which is very useful. Coming over to the next page, we still have the Google widget at the top, obviously. We have Google Keep right here, which I use just as a to-do list. As I said, this one is just totally made up, just so you wouldn't see my more important stuff under it. Pretty basic. Right here we have the Sony LifeLog widget, which I have to just show calories, because Google Fit does not really show that like this. We have Shazam for quick and easy access. We have a music folder right under that. We have Google Play Music, which is my preferred music app, just because with the Nexus I get like 6 free months of use, and after that it's about $10 a month. And it enables me to just pretty much listen to music, explore new music, and all of that. It's also a very nice app, shows material design off very well, and overall it is great. Also in the music app we have SoundCloud, which I use relatively frequently, Pandora, which I don't really use on the phone itself, but I like to have it there for managing it, Shazam again, that way it's just more organized, and then a binaural beats app, which I use sometimes when sleeping. Under that we have a utilities folder where we have things like Hound, which is okay. It's better than Google Now in some ways, Google Now is better in some other ways. You can do things like say, okay Hound, what time is it in Japan? So Hound does some cool things. It's not great, I don't really use it, but if I do swipe up from the bottom, then I can just easily access it, or choose Google. I don't really use this feature either way. Next to the utilities folder, we have a mail folder where I have Gmail, which is purely for my work email. I don't use it for any of my other email addresses. Yahoo Mail, just because I like to use Yahoo's app for my Yahoo email, and Outlook, because I like to use the Outlook app for my Outlook email. Next to that we have this widget here, which is for Ampere. Ampere is a great app that shows current energy usage, so when the device is plugged in like this, it shows the power coming in. This is of course coming from the USB port on my desktop, so it's nothing too special, but if I did unplug it, then it would say measuring, and then it would show you how much power I'm currently using, which would obviously be pretty high right now because I'm screen recording, so give this a second to figure it out. So 630 milliamps right now, and this updates all in pretty much real time. Then we can plug it back in, it'll measure, and overall it is a very useful app and a very useful widget. Under that we just have all of my Philips Hue settings, so basically I can just touch any of these and my lights basically instantly change to the appropriate theme. So I have my usual themes that I use pretty much in order from most used to least used. I can just quickly do them like this, or I can ask the Amazon Echo to do it. Most of these I don't use too often, mostly just these first few up here, but it's very useful just to be able to slide over and activate any theme like that. Coming over to the third screen, this is the one I use the least, of course, that's why it's third. We have the video folder featuring YouTube and Flickster, which is useful for showing movie apps. Cloud, where we have Dropbox, Google Drive, and FTP, which allows me to remotely connect to my file server in the other room from anywhere in the world. We of course have the Android Wear folder where I just keep the shortcuts to the Android Wear apps. We have another countdown widget right here, which shows how many days until I begin college. We have the Engadget, which I use sometimes for tech news. We have the Amazon Echo app here, and to control things on the Amazon Echo, which is very useful for just monitoring and making sure everything works, and then training the Echo to better understand me. Sometimes it is a pretty slow app. Generally, it's definitely very useful for managing things like alarms. Next to that, we have the Belkin Wemo app, which allows me to control my Belkin Wemo connected devices. I'll be totally honest, this app really sucks. It's slow, laggy, and doesn't really work that well, but it is useful obviously for manually controlling things on the Belkin Wemo devices. However, I mostly just have this app for the Amazon Echo. Then we have the banking app, which of course features Google Wallet again, US Bank, which is my bank. That app is probably the worst designed app that I've ever seen. We have the Paychex Flex app, which allows me to see how much money I get at my job. The PayPal app and eBay app. I honestly hate eBay as a website, and I hate the app. But that's another topic. Now we'll just come back here, and just to clear up some RAM here, we'll just go ahead and go into the multitasking, which is of course the stock Android one. So we can go ahead and close out of these apps here. I normally do not have this many apps open at any time, like ever. Of course, I'm in the middle of a video though. Now we'll go over the things here down at the bottom. So left here we have Textra, which is my SMS app of choice. We have the black material design theme going here. So if I open a text with somebody here, you can see it is a very attractive interface. And then if I open the text here, I have the SwiftKey keyboard installed, which is very nice for typing with one hand, two hands, or a swipe like that. And overall, this interface is very nice with Textra because I can come in here, send pictures, send emojis, which I have iOS emojis set up because they're more standard, I think. Overall, it's very nice app, very material-esque. Next to that, we have the Facebook Messenger, which we'll go ahead and open and hope there's nothing terrible in here. This app is good because I can do things like open chat like this and reply quickly. Like that, and then of course when they reply, a chat head will come up. In the middle we of course have my general app drawer there, which we'll go over later. Then we have Google Hangouts, which is my favorite messaging app actually. I use this for all of my pretty close friends who use iOS and Android because it enables for a much more locked down and generally connected experience, and it's much better for things like group conversations. It's also nice because you can mute them, change them, and add things very easily. Next to that we have the Google Camera, which is nothing special and it's not really worth opening, but it lets me use my 13 megapixel camera and record 4K video very nicely. That is basically everything on my homepage. Now I'll just generally go through a few of the things in here. We have AdBlock Plus, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but it's mostly disabled. Amazon Shopping, I never really buy anything on here, so it's mostly just for browsing. Ampere, as we went over. We have battery draining apps, Android Central, and just general apps like this. If you have any questions about any of these, go ahead and ask. Then we have some apps down here like CPU Temp and CPU Z that I can use to measure my CPU. Currently it's running a little warm obviously because I'm screen recording, and normally I have it in Celsius, but sometimes in the summer like this I like to compare it to the weather outside, so I just put it in Fahrenheit because it's easier because America. Then we can come in here, you see generally we have Google Classroom, stuff like that, some coding apps, the general Google stuff. We have GMD Immersive, which I used to use sometimes. It just hides the navigation bar at the bottom without rooting. We have Hill Climb Racing, which is the only game that I really play. We have the Philips Hue app, which of course allows for more in-depth controls of my lights, which is generally pretty nice. I can come in here, go into lights, and change specific things about different lamps in my room, pick different colors, and stuff like that. It is definitely very cool. Coming in further here we have things like Hue Disco, Netflix, and the My AT&T app. Most of the stuff in here I don't really use, which is why it's just in here. Coming over more, we just have some general utilities and more stuff that I don't really use too much, like the QR code reader that's useful to have, but that I don't use. We have Google Opinion Rewards to just make some money that I can use to usually just buy apps or buy movies to rent on Google Play Movies on my Nexus player. And then we have the screen recorder that I'm using now. Coming over further, we have a voice memo recording app right there, which is pretty cool. The Weather Channel app, which is my weather channel of choice. This app generally works pretty well. It's definitely not the prettiest or the smoothest, but it looks okay and it shows a lot of information, and I found it to be pretty accurate. Coming over further, we just have the Zooper widget, which allows me to just basically make widgets without applying any effort. Of course, we can look at some other things here, like the notification drawer here. We'll go ahead and just get rid of the notifications that are up there right now, and by swiping down with 2 fingers, of course, we come to this menu where we can manage things like Wi-Fi with Android 5.1, Bluetooth, auto rotation, airplane mode. Of course, this is on AT&T, somewhat unfortunately. Location, the flashlight, and then Chromecast, which of course is casting to the screen recorder right now, and then tethering right there, and of course things like brightness controls. This has been a tour of my phone. I hope you enjoyed, and please subscribe or ask any questions in the comments below if you have any.